Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with the greatest recordings ever. And today we're talking about Ravel's Boléro. Yes, just Boléro. Well, actually, there's more on the disc, but it's Boléro that we're focusing on. And the reason we're doing that is because in the random reviews from the Overflow Room, we're going through a huge retrospective on Ravel recordings. And Boléro is one of those pieces. It's very interesting, that most people assume, because Ravel called it 15 minutes of orchestration without music and whatnot, people just assume that you wind it up and you let it go. And you can. It can happen that way, but you shouldn't, because there are tricky moments that require a conductor's sensitive ear for balance and texture. And they really are necessary. One of them, and I did a whole video about it called How It Works, or How They Do It. There's a whole series on, how composers get the effects that they try to do. And I talk about this moment in Boléro, where Ravel has the tune played by a celesta, a horn in its high register, and two piccolos in different keys. It's bitonal. And the sound is extraordinary. It sounds like an organ, actually. It sounds like a high stop of an organ. And it's an amazing thing. But the whole point is that those sonorities have to be beautifully blended so that you don't hear any one instrument. You should just hear the unified sound. Now, some conductors want you to hear all the different timbres. You hear a celesta and a horn and a piccolo, and I don't like that. I think you should just hear that one sound that Ravel managed to create as a composite of these different instruments. So, that's just one example of where the conductor matters. And the other place where the conductor really matters, is at the end, at the very end, when the percussion comes in, besides the snare drums, because you're going da-da-da, bass drum, cymbals, crash, tam-tam, whack, boom, ba-da-da, crash, whack, boom, ba-da-da, crash, whack. And then there's a whomp, shump. There is a tam-tam smash on the last eighth note of the piece, which you almost never hear, and that's Ravel, because most tam-tams don't speak quickly enough for you to actually hear a loud crack at the very end. And some performances you hear a little bit, some you don't. Some they have some overhang at the end and something peeks out, So the bottom line is there are things that you can do. And aside from what the conductor is supposed to do, there is the quality of the solo playing. Everyone gets solos. You've got English horn and oboe and saxophones and the trombone solo. They get the tune. And how the players characterize these wonderful opportunities to really do something beautiful, not stupid, but beautiful with this gorgeous melody. Well, that matters too. It really does. So that means that there is, if you collect Ravel, as I have, and I know a lot of you have too, then you wound up collecting bazillions of boleros. And it is remarkable how different they sound from one another, not just in timbrally, as we were talking about, but also in terms of timings. The piece can go anywhere from 13 to 17 or 18 minutes. And whoa, it's a huge differential. And, I've made videos about Boléro and whatnot, but the recording I want to talk about as one of the greatest recordings ever is a middle-of-the-road performance in terms of timing. It's 15 minutes, 14 minutes and a bit. But the playing is just drop-dead gorgeous. And it's this one. It's Pierre Boulez, the Berlin Philharmonic on Deutsche Grammophon. And it's 14 minutes and 58 seconds, which is probably about ideal. And the solo playing is phenomenal. And at the very end, you actually hear cymbals, bass drum, cymbals, tam-tam, bass drum, cymbals, tam-tam. And at the very end, a smash. You get a little bit of that too. It is amazingly transparent. It's transparent in every possible way. Also, all the different ways Ravel changes the timbre of the accompaniment. It's just bump, ba-da-da-bling, bling, bump, ba-da-da-bling, all that stuff. Amazing. Just amazing. Boulez's Berlin Ravel cycle generally of orchestral music in Daphnis and Chloe was one of the greatest things he did toward the end of his career, because he did beautiful Ravel in New York as well and in other places. But when he came to Berlin to do these, for some reason, he sort of was a little droopy at the end of his career, but they woke up for this. And the orchestra really gave 110%, because you also have on this particular disc that contains Boléro, one of the most gorgeous Mother Goose ballets you'll ever hear in your life, with woodwind playing that is beyond exquisite. And Un barque sur l'océan, which doesn't get performed much, and it's delicious. Alborada del Gracioso, which is also delicious. And the Rhapsody Espagnole. And that's the only performance on here that I think could have a little bit more fire, the feria, the last movement, where it's just going, he could push it harder. It could have more panache, I think, than Boulez allows it to get. But otherwise, you're dealing with Ravel that is as beautifully played as it's possible to do. And a Boléro that really tells you what Boléro is all about. And that's, Boulez, when he was at his best, that's what he did. I mean, he exposed the nerve fibers of the work in a way that was really, really quite powerfully expressive, even though he was interpretively about as cool as it gets. But he had the music explain itself to you as it was being performed. And if what it was, part of the explanation was, passion and fire, then you got passion and fire. He just didn't get in the way. This is really worth hearing. It's part of your endless Boléro collection. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks for joining me, and take care.